I'd like to welcome you very warmly to the launch of Global Money Week 2022. My name is Amy Allen and I'm the Executive Director of the Financial Times new charity, the Financial Literacy and Inclusion Campaign. Global Money Week has been going for 10 years. It's a very special edition today. So since its inception in 2012, over 176 countries and economies have participated. And this year alone, we've got 110 countries participating. You can find out more at globalmoneyweek.org. But for those of you that don't know, it is an annual financial education awareness raising campaign designed to encourage a wide range of stakeholders to motivate children and young people to learn about money matters. The ultimate goal of Global Money Week is to ensure that all children and youth have access to high quality financial education, that they learn about money matters and are able to take the smart financial decisions that can safeguard their financial well-being and foster financial resilience. This year, Global Money Week is celebrated with the support of the G20 presidency of Indonesia, which is another testimony to the relevance of the campaign and of financial literacy globally. So without further ado, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to the 460 people who have registered to attend this launch. This year's theme is Build Your Future, Be Smart About Money, which stresses the importance of being forward-looking and thinking about the financial future of children and young people. So we have got a truly stellar lineup of panelists and speakers today. So without further ado, let me hand over to Mr. Carmina de Noia, who was appointed Director of the OECD Directorate for Financial Enterprise Affairs in February 2022, where he leads the OECD's standard setting policy work on a whole range of factors, including financial education and consumer protection. He brings over 30 years of experience in the area of financial markets and enterprise affairs, and prior to his appointment, Dr. de Noia was Commissioner for the Italian Securities and Exchange Commission and the Deputy Director General of the Association of Italian Corporations. So Dr. de Noia.
Thank you, Amy, and ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, and all the young people around the world who are watching. I'm delighted to launch the 2022 Global Money Week, despite the very sad moments we're living in these days. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the campaign created in 2012 by Child and Youth Finance International.
So I think you might
by each year bringing stakeholders from the public, private and not-for-profit sectors together to find solutions to promote the financial literacy of children and youth. Young people are not always equipped with the financial skills they need. The PISA 2018 financial literacy assessment showed that far too many students, around 1 in 6 on average across participating OECD countries and economies, lack basic proficiency, even in some high and middle performing PISA countries. So while over half of 15 years old students have a bank account and almost 40% have made a payment with a mobile phone, many cannot recognize the value of a simple budget, let alone understand a bank statement or a payslip. Young people also display lower levels of financial resilience than middle-aged adults, as discussed in the G20 OECD INFE report on supporting financial resilience and transformation through digital financial literacy, which the OECD developed under Italy's G20 presidency. Having limited financial resources may be normal at young ages, as many young people are transitioning from study to work and find themselves in low-paid or precarious jobs as they start to develop their careers. At the same time, young people in many countries were hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic and are also still affected by the global financial crisis. These twin crises have affected their access to education, job prospects, social lives, while youth unemployment or underemployment rates remain very high in many countries. The current economic and geopolitical situation reminds us more than ever the need to give children and young people all possible opportunities actually to build a secure future and a secure financial future. The OECD has for many years promoted financial literacy, especially for young people. The OECD recommendation on financial literacy, adopted in October 2020 at the OECD Ministerial Council meeting, encourages government to take measures to develop financial literacy from the earliest possible age. More than 75 countries around the world are currently developing or implementing national strategies for financial education to ensure efficient coordination of financial literacy initiatives for all target audiences, and especially for young people. Yet more remains to be done, and Global Money Week has an important role to play in this. The theme of Global Money Week this year, Build Your Future, Be Smart About Money, stresses the importance of preparing the financial future of our children and youth. Young people need to be given the instruments and opportunities to build a better, more inclusive, and more sustainable future for themselves and for the societies they live in. Financial literacy is one of those instruments, together with adequate financial inclusion and financial consumer protection frameworks. The participation of over 170 countries in the Global Money Week in these 10 years, reaching millions of children and young people, testifies the relevance of the campaign worldwide. The fact that Indonesia 2022 G20 presidency supports this year's campaign is another sign of the global relevance of financial literacy. Global Money Week is now more than just a week. It's an accelerator for financial education initiatives addressed at youth, and it gives visibility to efforts that last all year long. Dear colleagues, as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of GMW, let me take this opportunity to thank the 176 countries and economies and over 16,000 organizations which over the past years have made the GMW campaign what is today. I would also like to thank our esteemed guest speakers joining the launch of GMW 2022 today, including representatives of the G20 and its Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion, the European Union, a number of countries across 5 continents that have been at the forefront of organizing GMW, and last but not least, the very founder of this campaign, Jerome Billy Mori. To conclude, let me stress once again that basic financial literacy can make a crucial difference in the opportunities and life prospects of young people. It's a keystone for lifelong financial resilience and well-being. However, we know that challenges remain and that we need to keep up our efforts to make a difference in young people's lives. The OECD remains committed to advancing financial literacy for all and supporting you in your effort. Thank you very much, and I give back the word to Amy.
Thank you, Dr. De Nooijer. Next, we have a session called G20 and Global Money Week, supporting the financial inclusion and financial literacy of young people. I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Magda Bianco, who is an economist with a long and illustrious career starting at the Bank of Italy in 1989 in the research department. She has since been widely published on articles on corporate governance, corporate finance, bankruptcy, the economics of civil justice, and more generally on regulatory matters and gender issues. She has taught industrial, organization and corporate governance courses at several Italian universities and served as an economic advisor to the Italian Minister of Justice in 2012 and 2013. She has been an economic and financial consultant to the ministry since 2013. In her current role, she was appointed in June 2020 and has been the new director, the head of the Directorate General for Consumer Protection and Financial Education. Joining her will be Ms. Resmi Sari, Executive Director and Head of MSME Development and Consumer Protection Department at the Bank of Indonesia, G20 Indonesia Presidency Secretariat. She has extensive experience in the SME development and financial inclusion area during her services in the SME department, Banking Research and Regulation Department between the years of 2000 and 2018. She has also been actively participating in GPFI during Indonesia's G20 presidency in 2022 and in ASEAN as co-chair of Working Committee on Financial Inclusion, along with the National Bank of Cambodia. A very warm welcome to you both.
Thank you very much, Amy, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. Let me share my screen. Can you tell me if you see the presentation? Okay, it's really a pleasure and an honor to be here to join the opening of the 10th edition of the Global Money Week, which is becoming really more and more relevant internationally as well as nationally, as financial education is becoming. Financial education, as Director Dinoya was explaining, is increasingly recognized today as a core competence for a safer future, but also for becoming, I would say, a more aware citizen in a very complex world, financially, but not only financially in a sense. And the Global Money Week is becoming more relevant for this especially. In this complex world, financial world, but not only, the GPFI, the Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion, which was created by the G20 in 2010, is working to create the conditions for greater financial inclusion, for greater access to the financial system, which is really, the way we see it, is really an instrument for people's resilience, for a reduction of inequalities within countries and across countries, for, in the end, a really sustainable growth. Over these 12 years of our life, I think we have achieved some success. Financial inclusion has increased quite a lot over this time across countries, within countries. I think we have contributed reducing the obstacles to financial inclusion, and we have ensured that actually financial inclusion is now somehow part of the agenda of international financial institutions, international organizations, but also standard setting bodies, which has become very relevant to ensure that even when setting standards in the financial sectors, inclusion is part of what we do, of what we aim for. Specifically, over the last few years, GPFI has concentrated a lot on vulnerable categories, for example, women, migrants, elderly people, forcibly displaced people, micro and small and medium enterprises, but then more specifically on youth. And I would say over the last 3 presidencies, we have worked a lot on youth. For example, under Saudi Arabia presidency, we published a specific report on digital financial inclusion for youth. And under the Italian presidency, we developed reports, and Director Dinoya mentioned it, specifically on financial literacy, financial education for all, but also specifically for youth. And now with the Indonesia presidency, we are still working on this issue, and I'm sure Unita will talk about this more. Why is this becoming very important, very relevant? Because young people will have to face a more complex financial system and world more generally. They will probably have a more fragmented, in a sense, and even longer work life. They would probably have, in many countries, a less generous pension system. And now, recently, we even have even more specific vulnerabilities for youth. They have been enhanced by the pandemic, which has hit them very heavily and in a very dishomogeneous way, increasing inequalities. And of course, the growing digitalization in general and of the financial system is offering enormous opportunities for them, but also increasing risks risks of digitalization in general, risks of manipulation even. So we really need more and more financial education for them. How to respond to all these challenges, to ensure that we size the opportunities, but also we address the risks. Well, as GPFI, as Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion, we have worked on the lessons that we had from the experiences of many countries. And these lessons relate to both consumer protection and youth are consumers, financial consumers as well, especially the older one, but also in terms of financial education. And in 2021, we developed a menu of policy options, and those related to financial literacy were developed with the important contribution, the fundamental contribution of the OECD. And here I offer you some of them, some of these policy options, which are based on the experience of on the concrete and working experience of some countries. The first is use digital tools. Of course, they have offered enormous opportunities to enhance financial education, but we have to be careful when using them to avoid the risks of new exclusion. And hence we have to keep into account that also the use of traditional tools like traditional medias, but also for students, for children, also hard copies of books, for example, of games in a more traditional sense remain very relevant. Second insight, the use of behavioral insights to really affect behavior of people, not just knowledge, but actually how even youth behave. And this will help us a lot in addressing also the risks of digital tools for youth. For example, the risks of being fast in reacting to the proposals that the digital world offers, and also the increased risks that this poses for youth. And then another lesson is the enormous benefits that poses the introduction of financial competencies in school curricula. This allows a leap forward in the competencies of youth. There are a lot of good practices in schools. The use of competition across children and youth appears to be very fruitful in ensuring results, and hence we have a lot of good experiences that we can rely on. So I think here with the Global Money Week, we have an enormous opportunities to really involve all the relevant partners to work all together with the institutions that are involved in financial education, public and private, but also here the relevant people that work through these schools and teachers, of course, but also involving a lot the parents, families, also grandparents, I would say. Also only working all together, I think we can really achieve results. So I think it's really time to all together build their future and ensure that they are really smarter about their money. So thanks a lot.
And perhaps can we move now to Ms. Yunita Resmisari?
Okay. Thank you, Amy. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. May peace be upon us all. First of all, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude for inviting us as a representative of the Indonesia G20 presidency to speak at this very important event. In this opportunity, I would like to extend some points. First is the role of the Indonesian G20 presidency in supporting the financial inclusion and literacy of young people. As we all know, the pandemic has increased vulnerability due to the loss of income and limited access to finance, experienced by the most vulnerable and underserved groups. The socio-economic consequences from the pandemic for the vulnerable group and MSMEs, especially women and youth, could last longer than expected. Younger generation will find more challenges in labor market and moreover might be pushed into extreme poverty as they might face loss or drop of in income and have fewer saving as a cushion during hard times. OECD highlighted that in the recent years, 35% of young people are employed in low-paid and insecure jobs. Evidence from the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic crisis show that the rise in unemployment were mostly experienced by young people, and this could have long-lasting scaring effects in terms of career path and future earnings. For example, in Indonesia, young people also bear the social economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemics, while the older, more at risk for serious illness. Young people not only on the risk of the long-term health, but also for the economic and social costs. Young people aged between 10 and 24 make up 66 million, or almost 25% of the Indonesia population. The above evidence shows that it is very important to prioritize youth in the COVID-19 response and commit to a recovery that includes and engage them as partners in finding solutions to the socio-economic challenge. Moreover, the pandemic has shown us that digitalization could open up many opportunities, as described previously by Magda. We witnessed the technological development that have triggered innovation and efficiency in various fields. There are growing numbers of innovative financial products and services from supply side that can be used to meet the needs of individual and small businesses, including young people. Digital technology has enabled financially vulnerable and underserved groups, including MSMEs, especially women and youth, to access affordable solutions and to utilize digital financial instruments. In light of this, digital transformation will continue to be common agenda globally. During Indonesia G20 presidency, the digital transformation is one of the 3 key agendas aside from global health architecture and energy transition. In the area of financial inclusion, in line with the G20 2020 Financial Inclusion Action Plan or FIAP, Indonesia G20 presidency will focus on digital financial inclusion and SME finance. With the solid collaboration among GPFI co-chairs, members, as well as implementing partners and affiliated partners, including OECD, we will explore digitalization areas that are utilized to achieve productivity and ensure a sustainable and inclusive economy. The deliverable will consist of implementation guide for high-level principles on digital financial inclusion, recommendation on financial product and services to target groups, as well as toolkit for developing an ecosystem to promote MSME access to digital financial services. This will be incorporated into the ultimate outcome of the presidency, which is the financial inclusion framework in harnessing digitalization to increase productivity, sustainable and inclusive economy of women, youth, and MSMEs. In order to implement the digitalization properly, especially for the younger generation, financial literacy is very important as the financial product increases and more complex in both developed and developing countries. In the developing countries, financial literacy shall be seen as the first step toward alleviation of poverty. Financial literacy is also an integral component of consumer protection, since the innovation of the financial product and services also comes with the risk that should be mitigated. Second issue that we would like to raise is that young people as the potential future owners of MSMEs. We are aware that the increasing number in the demographic growth should be seen as an opportunity. But given the baseline in terms of poverty and lack of opportunities for young people, it could be represent a major threat to the future of these young people if their needs are not properly addressed. The failure to acquire marketable skills or capabilities for lifelong learning may consign them to persistent and deepening poverty. In the current SMEs, the role of young people is still limited. They have very little participation, and if this continues to happen, it will be even worse for the future of young people who have lack of interest in MSME because of the lack of entrepreneurial motivation. Young people might think that starting up MSMEs require large amount of capital and high competencies, even though this is not entirely true. So, and regarding their access to finance, young people are 33% less likely to have a saving accounts than adult and 44% less likely to save in a formal institution, like also described by Mr. Carmen de Noya. They are often excluded from access to formal financial services. Among the reasons include the legal restriction, high transaction costs, and negative stereotypes about the young people. Regulatory framework and inclusive policy, which is friendly and also protective to young people rights. So it's necessary to increase the youth financial inclusion. And providing young people with proper financial services, whether service product or an appropriately structured loan from a formal financial institution, as well as economic opportunities, can promote entrepreneurship and assets building, as well as emphasize sustainable livelihood. It is in this perspective that we find the relevance of financial campaigns for the young through the 2022 Global Money Week. This global effort is in line with the agenda pursued during the Indonesia G20 presidency, especially in the area of financial inclusion. Aligned with the official theme of Global Money Week 2022, which is Build Your Future, Be Smart About Money, the policymakers, regulators, and other key stakeholders shall be hand in hand, supporting the young people to increase their financial inclusion and literacy through the supportive ecosystem, such as the legal and regulatory environment, appropriate and accessible products and services, and accelerating their financial capabilities. In closing, we highly appreciate and support the 2022 Global Money Week that for the past 10 years has consistently supported young people to take steps in acquiring financial knowledge, skill, attitude, and behavior that contribute to their financial well-being and financial resilience. We wish this program a great success. Thank you. I hand over back over to Amy. Thank you.
Thank you, Magda, and thank you, Unita, for those illuminating presentations. As we mentioned, this year marks 10 years of Global Money Week, and I'd like you to join me in celebrating that with a short video.
tend to save money because we don't know what we will tend to lose.
Wonderful, what a lovely video. It really shows how we have injected some fun into the learning about financial literacy. And now we have a panel session that marks again the decade of Global Money Week. We'll be looking at the past and at the future of Global Money Week, and it really offers an opportunity for policymakers from different continents to exchange and celebrate together on this 10th anniversary and consider the achievements of the last 10 years and look to the future of Global Money Week. This session will include a moderated discussion, which will focus on how the week has grown and it has helped shape the financial education landscape in the last decade. What have we learned in the last 10 years? What changes have we seen, and what do we expect to see in the 10 years to come? First, I'd like to introduce a video message from Mairead McGuinness, the European Commissioner for Financial Services, Financial Stability and Capital Markets Union, where her vision for the portfolio is focused on ensuring the financial sector's strength and stability so that it can deliver for people, society, and the environment. Before joining the European Commission in 2020, Ms. McGuinness was the first Vice President of the European Parliament from 2017, where she served as an MEP for Ireland for 16 years. Prior to becoming an MEP, she was an award-winning journalist, broadcaster, and commentator. So I'd just like to introduce her video message.
This year, Global Money Week is turning 10, and I'm delighted to speak with you today to mark this impressive milestone. Global Money Week is an opportunity to find new and creative ways to show young people why money matters and the importance of good financial planning and decision-making. Last year, Global Money Week went digital. Many organisations thought outside the box with online competitions, quizzes and even virtual escape rooms, reaching a huge number of children across the globe during a very challenging time. So the bar has been set very high. In the spirit of Global Money Week, we must keep aiming even higher. I'm looking forward to hearing more about the activities lined up this week, and I'll be following Global Money Week 2022 hashtag on Twitter very closely. So the theme of this year's event is an important one. Build your future. Be smart about money. Good financial decisions can improve future financial well-being and financial resilience. But making smart financial decisions can be challenging, especially in our increasingly digital world. So, for example, young people today are getting investment advice from social media and friends. Now, your friend might have made money on a past investment through an app. That doesn't guarantee that you will too. So it is vital that young people learn the age-old message that past performance does not predict future performance. They also need to be able to see the bigger picture. If the demand for an asset increases, the price will go up. The possible gain will go down, and a bubble could even form. In our digital age, young people must be able to distinguish good advice from bad and potentially dangerous advice. As the GameStop bubble of last year demonstrated, being able to make smart financial decisions in the digital age is not only important for the individual's financial future, but it has wider implications for the stability of the financial system. It's not only rapid digitalisation that's changing our relationship with money. As the latest report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change so vividly shows, climate change is here and it's now. Young people can use their money as a force for positive change. They have the power to invest in a better future for themselves, for society and for the planet. So from an early age, they need an understanding of what it means to invest for tomorrow, including both the risks and the rewards. As policymakers, parents, teachers and financial services professionals, we have to make sure that young people gain the skills and knowledge they need to make finance work for them. Over the past 10 years, academic research in this area has increased substantially, driven in no small part by Anna Maria Lusardi and the Global Financial Literacy Excellence Centre. As the OECD International Network on Financial Education has been working hard too, gathering data and evidence, helping countries share experiences to design policy instruments and much more. So now we have a lot more information at our fingertips. For example, we know that economic circumstance, internet access and parental guidance matter when we look at financial literacy levels among young people. It's 2022. And we are all on the same page. Financial literacy matters, and the sooner children start their financial education journey, the better. So how do we make this happen? Here in the European Union, we're developing a financial competence framework for children and young people, working with the OECD. This will create a shared understanding across the European Union of what it means for children and young people to be financially literate. And that will be ready for next year. Governments, educational institutions, businesses and individuals will be able to use this framework to develop policies, programmes and educational materials. And of course, this is key. The framework is not the end goal. Enhancing financial literacy of young people across the European Union is. As we work on this project, it's great meeting others who are passionate about this key issue and hearing about their experiences. To bring the level of financial literacy up, it's essential that we listen and learn from each other. To help young people to become more financially aware, there is one simple thing we can all do: talk to our children about money. And this is why Global Money Week is so important. Anywhere in the world, it opens up the conversation about money. It gives young people and their families an opportunity to talk about budgeting, saving and borrowing. And it gives young people the chance to ask questions about money. Of course, the financial world has changed fundamentally since I was a child. And indeed, if I look to the next 10 years, I think it will look very different than it does today. So while I learned the basics about saving using a physical piggy bank, some children today are using apps on their phones. So let's make sure that young people gain the skills, knowledge and confidence to take control of their financial future in our ever-changing and indeed uncertain world. I wish you the very best for the rest of today's launch event. And to all the young people attending events this week, don't be afraid to ask lots of questions. And most importantly, have fun. And thank you.
Fabulous. So now I'd like to introduce our panelists. We're going to begin with Jiru Bilamoria, who is the reason that we are all here, the founder of Global Money Week. She is also the founder of several innovative and award-winning NGOs and has over 20 years experience running systems change organizations as a Skoll awardee and a Ashoka and a Schwab fellow. Among her previous organizations are Child and Youth Finance International, Aflatoon International, Childline India, Child Helpline International, which have facilitated meaningful change in financial inclusion of youth in over 160 countries and created a global movement for the protection of children and youth active in more than 181 countries. Jiru is now founder of One Family Foundation, which incubates social innovations and applies systems change methodology to help organizations scale. One Family Foundation is currently anchoring Catalyst 2030, initiated by leading social entrepreneurs from Ashoka, Echoing Green, and the Schwab Foundation and the Skoll Foundation, among other global networks of social entrepreneurs. It aims to accelerate progress towards the SDGs by radically transforming social innovation ecosystem and driving systems change interventions at country level. We're also joined by Governor Koba Gvenetadze. He is the chairman of the board of the National Bank of Georgia and governor since 2016. He has worked at the International Monetary Fund in Washington, D.C. as a senior economist of Middle East and Central Asia Department between the years of 2002 and 2015, including serving as resident representative of the IMF in Azerbaijan and the Kyrgyz Republic. He has held positions of Deputy State Minister and Deputy Finance Minister of Georgia. We're also joined by Maria Socorro Hasan Zagara, who is the Superintendent of Banking, Insurance and Private Pension Fund Administrators of Peru since 2016. Although she is she is the member of the Board of Directors of the Association of Banking Supervisors of the Americas, ASBA, and a member of the Board of Directors of the Toronto Centre. She began her professional career at the Central Reserve Bank of Peru, where she became Deputy Manager of the Monetary Sector and Advisor to the General Manager. She has been a staff member and consultant to the IMF from 1991 until 2012. In 2012, she was appointed Deputy General Manager of the Economic Studies Department of the Financiera Confianza, an entity of the BBVA Foundation, a position she has held until August 2016, when she was appointed Superintendent of Banking, Insurance and Private Pension Fund Administrators. We're also joined by Dr. Denny Kalyaya, who is Governor and Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Bank of Zambia. He is also the country's alternate governor for the International Monetary Fund, World Bank Independent Co-Chair for IDA 20, Replenishment Chairperson of the Association of African Central Banks Southern Region, and Non-Executive Director of the African Export and Import Bank Board. He has also served as Executive Director at the World Bank Group for Africa in Group 1 and as alternate Executive Director for the same institution, Deputy Governor of Operations of the Central Bank of Zambia and Director of the Economics Department at the Central Bank of Zambia. We also have Ms. Nawapom Maharakaga. Ms. Maharakaga is Assistant Governor of the Bank of Thailand and responsible for the Risk Management Group, as well as the Financial Literacy and the bank's Learning Centre. She has previously worked in monetary policy, bank regulation and reserve management. While working in bank regulation, she was responsible for the financial sector development, master plan and prudential regulation. She has been part of the team that set up work on financial literacy, market conduct and financial consumer protection at the Bank of Thailand in the 1990s, benefiting significantly from being a part of the international forum INFE. The financial literacy work at the Bank of Thailand is recognised as an important component of the bank's strategy for developing the new financial landscape announced in February 2022 in light of digital disruption, as well as sustainable solutions for household debt. Welcome to our panel. I'd like to start with Jiru, please. It's been 10 years since you started this wonderful campaign, which has now reached over 150 countries around the world. Do you think it has achieved what you have hoped it would?
Yes, definitely. I'm so happy, and that's because of the support of everybody. And I think the biggest support was we had a huge growth when we went from CYFI doing it to partnering with OECD. I still remember the conversation with Floran and saying, hey, if we partner, would it be? And then that's, would it be able to? And then OECD became the core partner to Global Money Week. And then I saw it really growing. And then all the central banks came on board and it became, so I have seen it grow step by step and really become the world event it is today. Of course, my dream is that for the next 10 years, every child should be participating in Global Money Week. So hopefully we'll make that happen.
You've answered my next question, which are, what are your hopes for the next decade? So is there anything else that you'd like to add? That obviously increasing the reach is so important.
Yeah, I think it was mentioned firstly that because of Global Money Week now, we're able to accelerate financial education and literacy. And I think that is probably one of the key points because it's a trigger in more governments taking on policies, doing the work. So I think that is something which has really, really helped. And I think whereas there's a lot of fun, it's the acceleration of policy change, which to me is the biggest achievement in Global Money Week. I think that has been one of the most amazing things that has come, and it being included in part of INFE and other the network. So I think that is one very important thing. And I remember very early conversations when we did the first curriculum, and I think now the time is even now, the commissioner mentioned it. So when we are looking at resources, we are still thinking of money, but maybe in the next 10 years, we think of resources in terms of the natural resources that are around us. Gas, light, electricity, petrol, and how can children save that too? because then we are able to really accelerate not just the financial awareness, but also the environmental awareness, which is absolutely key in the next 10 years as climate has been paced. So I think this is something, and as the center looks at how they are going to evaluate it, I think some of these indicators can also come in, and it can be linked, because that is the future. If we don't look after our resources, finances alone won't be enough. So I think this is something which would also be very important. And I know it has already been kickstarted in Global Money Week. So I hope, as the commissioner said, it will grow and go further.
We do have our work cut out for us.
Yes, for sure.
I'd like to turn
But
next.
you all are doing an amazing job. OECD is doing an amazing job. So I think that's what's most important. You know?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'd like to turn next to Governor Gvenatadze. Georgia has organised Global Money Week for many years. Over time, the campaign has grown and helped shape the financial education landscape. I'd like to ask you, what changes have you seen, and how is financial education perceived today by policymakers compared to a decade ago?
Thank you. Thank you, first of all, very much for inviting me at this very important forum. And it's always my pleasure to dedicate my time to financial education issues. Before answering your question, I also want to express my solidarity to Ukraine and Ukrainian people in these difficult days. Global Money Week, it is very important thing, and we started celebrating it about 10 years ago in Georgia, and the approach was that we would involve as many participants as possible, and we would increase activities as much as possible. Currently, our stakeholders involve commercial banks, microfinance institutions, NGOs, universities, and we ask all of them to participate as much as possible. We provide a large roadmap for this, and it's up to them to participate, and we are very happy that they are more active in this. But what is sort of our concept and approach to this? For us, for the National Bank of Georgia, financial education is an essential part of the financial consumer protection framework, and that is why so we look at it as two sides of the coin. That's why it's integral part for our functioning. We think that financial education is necessary for financial stability in the country, because once the consumers, once the borrowers are educated about their rights, about how to use financial resources, it means that there will be less problems for financial institutions to get repaid, and there will be less unhappy borrowers, physical persons or companies. That is why it's sort of comprehensive approach to this. And there comes the issue of how this should be done. When we thought about it, we decided to have a strategy about financial education, which we developed with the help of our stakeholders. In the National Bank of Georgia, we separated consumer protection division from banking supervision department. We made it larger. Now it consists of two divisions, and it is called Department of Financial Education and Consumer Protection. We allocate a lot of staff. We train the staff. We try to give them as much as possible to make sure that they develop these good ideas, whatever exists in the world. And last but not least, from 2018, we, with the help of Ministry of Education and Science, incorporated topics of financial education in the curriculum since 2018, and kids in the grade of 7, 8, and 9, they already study financial education topics. And recently, not recently, actually, about like 3 years ago, we started very actively to use online resources, which is a better way, we think, in current digitalized world to reach our target groups.
Thank you, Governor. Ms. Socorro Hasten, I wonder if you could answer the same question in the Peruvian context. What changes have you seen since you started running Global Money Week, and how is financial education perceived by policymakers?
Hello. First of all, I would like to congratulate OECD on reaching this 10-year anniversary of the Global Money Week. It has been a long journey getting to this point, and we at SBS in Peru are very happy to be part of it. We have been part of this global initiative since 2014. We joined 2 years after many of you. And during these difficult years, we have been looking at very important changes in the financial system. We have looked at growing financial inclusion, greater digitalization of the financial system, and a lot of changes in consumers' approach to the financial system and in their own demands from the financial system. In this context, financial education has become even more important as a priority for financial regulators and policymakers and practitioners themselves. In Peru, since 2019, the Global Money Week, I'm happy to say, has been part of the financial inclusion strategy as a nationwide awareness campaign. And this annual event reminds us policymakers and all practitioners of the importance of financial education while spreading awareness nationwide of this important issue. The outreach of Global Money Week has grown every year. And this year, I'm very happy to say we have 60 entities that are taking part of Global Money Week in Peru, including public and private sector and civil society organizations. And well, even before COVID-19, the digitalization of the financial system had already started. And these 2 years of pandemic have only accentuated these changes. This is good news for the financial inclusion as more people have access to financial products and financial services, particularly younger consumers and also small businesses that are demanding specialized services from the financial system. For instance, in Peru, in the last couple of years, the number of transactions from mobile wallets grew 4.3 times. And during the same period, the number of users of mobile banking grew 5.6 times. And now we have 8.5 million users of digital financial services. These changes have come with some risks. As it was mentioned earlier, on the one hand, it is easier to get over indebted through online loans or using credit cards. And on the other hand, users of information and communication technology in financial services are exposed to new risks, such as phishing, virtual scams, among others. So in this context, financial education and digital financial education in particular are even more relevant and an urgent concern for us policymakers. From a regulator perspective, we now know that it is not enough to establish rules and regulations to eliminate abusive practices in the market. We must also work on financial education, recognizing financial education as the first line of defense for financial consumers in the relationship with the financial system. In this regard, SBS has collaborated with the Ministry of Education in developing the financial education textbooks and in training educators in Peru to deliver and to financial education in Peruvian schools. And now Peruvian financial education is part of the curricula of primary schools and secondary schools, reaching 6 million kids every year. This is an important milestone for us And also SBS is participating and is organized several different types of courses and webinars targeting a more wider audience. And with the pandemic, we have transformed these webinars and these courses into digital courses, and we have a digital library that is available for all consumers. So these are just small contributions in an enormous challenge that is achieving financial education for all citizens in Peru.
Thank you. And can I turn next to Dr. Kalyalya to tell us about the Zambian context?
Thank you very much, Amy, for moderating. Let me start by, on behalf of Zambia, to thank OECD for the invitation. We join you in celebrating this 10th anniversary. We are delighted to be part of this celebration, actually. Global Money Week for us has really been domesticated into our what we call Financial Literacy Week. The idea really, we tweaked the global theme to really reflect what we, as an appeal to the young people here. So since 2013, we have really been part of these celebrations. We started out with the Child Youth Financial International, and then now as part of OECD. It wasn't easy in our country because people are not, especially young people, were not quite accustomed to talk about money issues. So I think this has changed now, that young people can actually talk openly about money, and this financial literacy has come in handy to actually enable them appreciate the need to make informed decisions. So we have seen the interest grow. We have seen us as regulators also coming together to work as a team to push the literacy agenda in our respective areas of operation. And we found that this actually has been very helpful. Just today, we were together to launch, after the event was launched last night by the Minister of Finance on the national TV. So we have developed what we call the Financial Literacy Week, modeled along the Global Money Week, where now it's a countrywide event. We have 10 provinces, and in all those 10 provinces, there's an activity or a set of activities which are going on. One other thing we observed was that it would be best to bring in practitioners in the process, especially the organization part of it. So we got in the Bankers Association to take the lead in organizing these events. And we found that actually it has gone quite further than we would have perhaps done if, as regulators, we are the ones who were doing this. So we find that they have a better way of even reaching out to customers than we would have probably done. So we have, like Georgia, I think also, and Peru, pushed for financial literacy to be part of the school curriculum. So this is now part and parcel of the school curriculum, and it's being taught in schools. We are pushing that it should not just end up in public schools, it should be also in the private schools as well. So in terms of financial inclusion, we have moved quite significantly. When we first measured our financial inclusion, the indicator in 2009, we were at 37.3%. When we did that in 2015, we were at 59% thereabout. The latest measurement was in 2020. We had gone up to 69.4%. But more importantly, I think it's the formal financial inclusion side of it, which moved from 2015 from 38.2% to 61.3%. So as the central bank, our strategy over the next 4 years from 2020 is really financial inclusion and financial stability. And we are canvassing everybody to work around that. And we have seen colleagues join hands. We have also divided the Financial Literacy Week into different components. The insurers are calling it Insurance Week. The capital markets also Capital Markets Week, so that we have an all-embracing strategy to do that. And we are organized under the Ministry of Finance, working together with the Ministry of Education. So we feel that we are on the right trajectory, but there's still quite a lot of work, as others have pointed out. But definitely, we are seeing improvements. Like Thailand has said, and Indonesia, digitization is quite critical. For us to achieve what we have achieved so far, we have had to rely on digital platforms to reach out to things. So clearly, that's the way to go. But obviously, it comes with some risks, which we have to manage, like cyber risks. And I like the way Jero also pointed out going forward, I think the idea of incorporating climate change, because it's there with us. So I think we have a lot of work to do, all of us, but I think it's catching on, and we can see the young people actually getting excited. We introduced the big banks so that they can try to save small. So all I can say is that actually we are with the rest of the world in really appreciating this Global Money Week. For us, we have tended to Financial Literacy Week, but tweaking the global message to suit our local environment in a manner that personalizes some of those activities so that people see themselves there, especially the young people, that they are the ones this message is targeted at. So this is where we are at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kalyaya. Perhaps we could turn next to Ms. Mahara Karga, so that she could tell us about the changes that have happened in Thailand since they started celebrating Global Money Week.
Yes, well, first of all, I'd like to thank the OECD, who has always been a light of guidance for us. And and happy birthday, Global Money Week. You are now a confirmed Gen Z and Gen Y. The Bank of Thailand has been doing financial literacy for over a decade, and we found this global forum and the shared wisdoms of all our colleagues have been probably the most inspiring and enlightening. So when I looked at what everyone has said so far and the checklist that OECD put up as a top of the agenda for what really can make an impact, I like to say that we totally echoed that. The Bank of Thailand actually targets Gen Y and Gen Z, and we've been doing so for the past 5 years. We have now reached vocational colleges. We've reached over a third, which is 300 vocational colleges. So that's a flow of 300,000 students per year. And we've chosen to do it in a behavioral change pattern. So we go in and we stay with the program for four months. And what we found was actually very inspiring. What we did was we actually teach people to fish, or wanting to make a rod, or wanting to make fishing net themselves. We're not going to fish for you. So what we did was that we brought them all in, the colleges, the students, the teachers, the college directors even, to a workshop, and we teach them Stanford design thinking, and we let them solve their own problem. And the amazing thing was that they brought up their own problems, their own pain points within their colleges. They compete for the program that would solve this problem, and we saw amazing empowerment, leadership, and just innovations. But I think most of all is that they own their problems and they feel that they're empowered to solve this problem. And we've been doing this for the past 3 years. We started with a very small sandbox of 16 colleges. Before COVID, there were 100 colleges joining us per year. Last year, with the height of COVID, 200 colleges asked to join. So I think pain point, innovation, creativity, and how to get there. So I think that, so we echo that. I think it's the young people who could do that. Let's just teach them that they want to fish. They want to, do the fishing nets themselves. We've got colleges coming up with within the competition, a mobile app for budgeting, for planning, for behavioral nudge. And these are vocational colleges of 15 to 20 years old. We've got colleges using marketing campaign, using behavioral nudge, using application, using songs and dance even, using media, anything to get people there. And I think the key to Gen Y and Gen Z is to let them own their problem, because actually they can actually get so much information on the platform. So the second thing we did was that we provide a safe, clean, accessible source of information on our Facebook and websites. And our reach last year was 17 million. And this year our target for reach of access is 30 million. And that's pure digital. That's digital disruptions. We have with COVID and household indebtedness, and with digital disruption, and with the really, really difficult problems, with challenges that the new Gen Y and Gen Z will face, with the economic restructuring, reshuffling, disruptions. Basically, what we figure out was that we need to create an ecosystem of partners. So we basically act as a broker. Anyone with great contents, we share. We share all of our contents through our network of partners, which are vocational school colleges, healthcare workers, and the amazing parallel between teaching people to do social distancing for COVID and social distancing from financial illness is actually very similar. And teaching people to do, budget planning and to not to pay just the minimum on the credit card, and to have a contingent saving. It's very much like teaching people that they need vaccine. So it's financial resiliencies. So it comes with the need of COVID, and it comes with digital disruption. We've also, in our survey of financial literacy, we do it by generation. We do big boomer, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z. We also use big data, which is linked to our fast pay. We have one of the fastest growing fast pay system because of interoperability. So we use those big data also for dicing and slicing and targeted groups. And most of all, the medias have been amazing. So I think digital, let the Gen Y be empowered, teach them to solve their own problems, getting really good data. So this is actually, financial literacy used to be, a little hub, a startup in the back end of, supervision. We are now sort of like growing up from startup to a listed company, so we say. We are now featured in our new financial landscape plan, which is launched February this year. So it's part of a very strategic move to handle two things: household debts and digital disruption, and digital literacy would also be key. So I think basically I echo everything, every checkbox that everyone has said so far, and the bullets that OECD showed earlier. So we are very happy to hear everyone's experiences, and we're glad that the OECD and Global Money share this in a simple, scalable, reachable, touchable manner, so that we can actually deploy it in a practical manner. So thank you.
Ms. Maharakaga, What would you say have been the main challenges and what lessons can you draw from these last 10 years?
The main challenges was speed and scalability. I think the key thing is to build an ecosystem and a network of partners. So, and I think there are many people working on financial literacy and in the country. You know, the education department, every organization. It tends to be that a lot of people are duplicating each other's effort in terms of creating contents. So what we did was that we basically trying to put them all in a map and see the segmentation, and then we sign MOU with a lot of them. So we work with, you know, village funds, we work with social security fund, we work with government's provident fund, we work with vocational school colleges. So but we don't duplicate each other. So and the great thing is that the reason we are being able to reach about 30 million people on things like you know, warning on financial fraud and on digital crime is actually through these platforms of network. So just link all the network together.
Understood. And Ms. Sakura Hasan, would you say that there was a similarly populated landscape in Peru? What were the lessons that you learned from the last 10 years?
Yes, we share a lot of the experiences from other countries like Thailand and Georgia and Indonesia. We have learned that to deliver a successful campaign, it is essential to join efforts with a wide range of entities, including financial institutions and other public entities. And it is also important to incorporate entities outside of the financial system and the policymakers view, including the media, NGOs, and new digital companies and startups, including influencers. So this new set of people who are participating in this campaign provide out-of-the-box ideas, and they could provide solutions that might be scaled up to the national level in the future. So it is very important to broaden the scope of people involved in this campaign, and to keep them establishing long-term relations and well-coordinated efforts, not just each person doing their own project. Our approach to this is to give guidelines without limiting innovation. And we know that financial education is an enormous challenge, and that we cannot do this alone. And we need to keep on doing the Global Money Week is a big help to increase the awareness of other institutions and into wanting to be part of this strategic effort. So basically, this is our experience.
Understood. And Dr. Kalyaya, what are the main lessons that you've learned in the last 10 years in Zambia?
Thank you very much. Similar experiences, but more specifically, when we started to roll this as a national program, it was quite challenging because we have a vast country and low population density. So to really reach every corner of the country, we had to mobilize everybody, as Pedro indicated, outside the financial sector. So whoever we could really reach out to, we had to bring them into the net. But also working with the financial service providers was quite a game changer, because they were also driving to get their business out. But we noted that also bringing in the policymakers, the local administration was key in getting the message out. So now we see that when we go out in these areas, they are all quite keen to be part of that whole process. The other thing was that targeting was not quite easy, but we developed a mechanism of targeting the number that we would need to reach face to face. But more recently, the use of social media has helped us to really leapfrog that problem, because we moved from, say, 70,000 targeting per year to now we are talking of reaching a population of 9.5 million. Now, to put that in context, Zambia's population is about 18 million or so. So that's well over half of the population being reached by using these digital measures. The other thing we found at the beginning was that there were very few products which were targeted at the young people, the children. So working with the financial service providers, we have now been able to populate that. When we started, we had about 3 institutions that were really targeting that age group. But now we have over 15 institutions with over almost 20 different account types that the young people can open up in these institutions. Then we see in terms of impact measurement, we have this periodic survey that we undertake. Some of the results I shared earlier. But as I said earlier, one of the things we have had to do was to localize the theme a bit from the Global Money Week theme so that it is easily identified. For example, we had such themes as save, invest, and insure to live a better life through saving. Open your account now. A better life through saving. Every ngwe counts. The ngwe is our smallest denomination of our local currency, so the people can relate to that. Key life events, know and plan your finances to live a better life. So such things started to resonate with the people that these are things that matter in their lives. So in the 2020-21, I think as others have pointed out, the COVID setting, I think it brought in other challenges, but I think that has also helped to leverage on technology. We now are able to reach as many people as possible, like we are doing here. These virtual meetings are now possible. We had fears at the beginning that maybe many people may not be covered, but to our pleasant surprise, I think the providers of these networks lived up to the expectation. We see that this is now improving. So we are, like others, really taking every opportunity that we see. Whoever we come across is coming. And I must stress that also the cooperating partners for us here have been quite helpful in also sharing their experiences in their own home countries. So learning is an ongoing exercise. So I thank you very much.
Thank you. If I could turn next to Governor Gvenetadze and ask, what do you think your average 10-year-old child should know now about their future finances? How might they prepare for their future?
Well, there are quite a lot of things that in current world, 10-year-old children should know. As you, of course, all know, OECD recommends financial education should start as early as possible. And when I say as early as possible, I really mean this. And I mean, it's also was important and interesting how the situation with financial education evolved in Georgia, which has a unfortunate history of being the part of Soviet Union. And in Soviet Union, having the money considered as a good thing, you know, it was sort of like a shame if you had a lot of money. because you would not be able to earn a lot of money, right? So while the kids we are talking about now, they have been born in free and independent Georgia. The parents, like myself, were also born in Soviet Union, and we were raised in the period of Soviet Union. So it's really important that our mentality also got changed about it. And I think that what children should know, first of all, is that money is earned through education and hard work, and therefore they should be smart about it. And they should know the difference between their wants and their needs to sort of understand well what does it mean. What was also helping me quite a lot in communication about it was that I myself, in my family, we have 3 kids. Right now they are 9, 12, and 17. But through this year, I was also trying to sort of test them what would work. What were the good ways to communicate with them and convince that if they wanted to buy, I don't know, the bicycle or the smartphone, what will be the good way to have it, and why changing the current smartphone with the next generation one would not make much sense, because that smartphone would still do its functions quite well. So I think that what they have to know, and actually that's what we also put in a curriculum, I guess in also many countries, is what is the budget, what is the revenue, what is a loan, what is the interest. And one very interesting thing which came out with surveys which have been done, and actually I want to thank OECD again about this, that Georgia was also involved in this program, is that in Georgia that most of the people who were surveyed did not see difference between the loan and the income. So they considered loan as an income. They didn't consider it as an obligation which needs to be paid later. So, I mean, all these things, unless they are addressed from the childhood, will be more difficult to understand later in the life. So quite a lot of things. I myself, when we started the campaign of this curriculum of financial education in Georgia, we did the lectures. I myself and my staff, head of departments and staff of financial education division, we gave lectures to schools in different parts of Georgia. And it was so interesting to have this lecture with 11-year-old children. They would give so many ideas of what to do in this direction. So, I mean, we have to ask questions in this situation. We have to listen to children, and they will teach us, and they will show us the way we have to go. So we have a lot of things to do, I'm sure. It's gonna pay off a bit later, but we have to start it as early as possible.
Thank you, Governor. My next question, and I would like it for Dr. Kalyaya first. How is your country planning to continue advancing financial literacy for young people over the next 10 years? Dr. Kalyaya, I think you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you for the question. I think a lot of challenges are upon us naturally, but really the foundation that we have built, I think it's important to consolidate these gains that we have made. And one of the ways I think to think about it is that we have 10, by the time if we have 10-year-olds now, by the next 10 years, there will be 20 years. So all these elements which the governor of Georgia has brought out are critically important. So for us, really the program that we have started, I think is critically important that we build on it. There are new lessons that we learn as we go along. So how do we adopt those so that we don't lose the gains that we have made along the way. I listened carefully with what McGuinness is shared on that past performance does not necessarily reflect current performance, but I think there are lessons that we can learn from our past which can be useful for the future. So for the young people, I think they are more savvy than we think we were at their age, for example. So really the use of technology is going to be critically important, that they are given the opportunities to use these tools more responsibly. I heard my colleague also saying that I mean, they provide, I think Thailand, they provide clean information. I think there are so many challenges that the young people are exposed to. So how do we navigate such that they get the good information which will enable them to make the right kind of decisions? I think planning for the future is extremely important for everybody, including the young people, as they prepare for their lives. So the building on the messages that we do put out each round of these financial literacy weeks is extremely important, so that it's not lost, and we continue to build, I think, in the curriculum, expressive arts, social studies, all those things which actually have relevance to one's life will be important that they are incorporated. For the central bank, I mean, we have an interest in that our monetary policy effectiveness will also be enhanced if we really get financial inclusion to the level that we all are pushing for. And I think this we are doing in the individual countries, I think given the technology, there is a lot of synergies that we can cultivate across countries. And the OECD, I think the role you are playing is extremely important to bring us together and share these. And we would really encourage that some of these lessons, maybe they find themselves into some kind of a book or something which can be incorporated into the programs of the future, so that we don't reinvent the wheel, as it were. So I think the menu is quite rich. We can use that menu more effectively by avoiding having to reinvent the wheel when others have done what they have done, which we can leverage upon. So this is our view, and we are incorporating everybody who has something to offer. So that's really the thrust of our drive going forward, that we will continue to push at the lowest end of the population to be able to be part and the parcel of that, because by being financial literate, people can make better and informed decisions. So that's our motto. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if I could go to Ms. Maharaga Kaga again, please, to let us know what Thailand is planning to do to continue to advance the financial literacy of young people.
I think to advance financial literacy, I think partnership and ecosystem is key. That's one thing. And secondly, in order to make it resilient, I think you actually have to sometime really get at the behavioral part. I think to get at the behavioral part, digital is amazing. It allows us to do health check. There's nothing that can wake up people. The wake up call is a health check. So when we go into vocational colleges, and we also do factories, we do also blue collar workers, we let them do the health check first, financial health check. Amazing the number of people who were shocked, and they woke up to realize the state of their financial health. And then we took them through the program for about 2 or 3 months in financial planning. And then I think that kind of wake-up call truly matters if you want a sustainable one. Secondly, I think, and we did the same thing in vocational colleges. We let the children figure out what their financial problem was, where their income was coming from, where their expenses were, whether they have enough for contingency saving to withstand shocks. We don't give them that much information. We just tell them where they can find information. But I think we teach them to really probe at a problem and get a grip of it. We give them simple steps. So it's a case of simplicity, relevance, scalability, and speed. And I think for the digital age, with the proliferations of mobile banking in my country and the fast pay and e-commerce, I think consumer protection in the next phase actually is already here. The key is information and speed, because literally cyber risk, digital fraud, digital crime, the speed that would hit you is massive. The impact that regulators and central bank will face on social media with any mishap in terms of fund transfers or hacking is, we will be bombarded, and our credibility would be at stake with this digital payment system. So it's that with that kind of speed, I think digital is inevitable. And lastly, I think the greatest challenge of all is digital divide between the various ages. I think that would also be key. I think what we would be looking at is how can we actually protect them? Sometimes you actually have to use regulations. But I think digital literacy would also, how can you craft it in a way that people can grasp and digest and actually understand? Because IT and cyber risk and digital crime are not easy things. So, and the speed of information to get up there is really, really important. So I think it's a question of regulations, consumer protections, and literacy on the part of the consumer that has to be so well balanced when the threat is at digital speed. So I think that's really our challenge. Thank you.
Sorry, you are muted.
Hello, Governor Benatadze.
Okay, you were muted, so that's why I didn't know that it was.
Forgive me, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I think my colleagues from Zambia, from Thailand actually touched these issues. So I don't think that I will say something new, but at least I will offer you what I think about this question in case of Georgia. So what we see very important here is, first of all, to analyze what works well, because this will very much tell you what's the direction we have to continue. The second is coordination among stakeholders, because I think it was representative from Thailand who also said that there are a lot of parties involved in financial education, and we need to know what are pure desires of and how effectively they are contributing to this, because sometimes we have noticed, as much as we encourage participation of financial institutions in financial education topics, we have sometimes noticed that there was sort of attempt to also advertise some products. So that's why we have to make sure that there is a fine line between this. In today's challenging world, of course, cybersecurity is very important, because we need to make sure that we give this in line with financial education, so it becomes a part of financial education, whether we want it or not. So that's why it becomes even more multifaceted, and we have to make sure that we provide these tools and ability to those who want to be more knowledgeable and who need to be more knowledgeable in financial education. Also, the important thing is, what are the ways to communicate? And of course, then, I mean, internet comes first in this situation, And that is why our sort of response to this, to reach the scale, was that we established financial education portal, which we call FinEdu, and it communicates with various stakeholders and through various social networks. And there are a lot of users, and we are very happy how it develops. It is not just a platform of the staff of the National Bank of Georgia, but at the same time, other qualified and knowledgeable parties. So we encourage them to participate because they bring financial education issues from different angles. And we are very happy to see more and more activities on this web portal. So I think that, and also my colleague from Zambia, Deni, also mentioned the challenges which pandemic also put. Of course, it was not desirable, and everybody was unhappy about it, but at the same time, it also gave us some sort of, it also made somehow change our direction or adds a new feature to our communication about it. So that's why we also, given that we are living in this quite changing and dynamic world, sometimes with very unfortunate events like what we see in Ukraine, as I said in the beginning, we have to see how we go, where we go, and this environment will also give us ideas whether we have to make any changes. And last but not least, sharing experience. I mean, what we have today, right? We have information from Asia, from South America, from Africa. This is what makes us stronger, the whole community in the world, to make sure that financial education becomes a priority and it contributes to welfare and increasing welfare and financial stability of our countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Koro Hasten.
Yes. Well, first, there's a lot we can do to improve financial education, literacy, and competencies of children and adults. Looking first at children, I think that a key issue for us is to ensure that all teachers have the right competences to actually deliver effectively a financial education to children. It is very difficult to teach something that you do not have yourself. And teachers in Peru have not had financial education in their curriculum. They have not had this previous experience of being taught this. So one of the big objectives for us for the next 10 years is first to introduce financial education in teachers' curriculum and to teach them, ensure that all teachers have these competences. In this regard, the superintendency will continue helping the Ministry of Education to develop the curricula of financial education for teachers, and to continue helping teach teachers financial education competences. A second thing that we think is important and we need to do is to continue monitoring progress in financial education competences. And we have been applying a survey. The first survey was applied in 2013, the second survey was applied in 2019, and now we are in the progress of applying a third survey of financial education competencies, a post-COVID survey to understand what have been the changes of consumers, adults, children in this regard in Peru. And this is important because from knowing this, we can better design our policies, and practitioners can better design their products, also their financial education products. So this is the second thing for us to do. And the third thing for the superintendency is to continue working on increasing and improving our library of financial education products and continue improving awareness of the existence of this library and promoting the use by everybody in different areas nationwide. So these are the main things that we're doing in the next few years.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank all of our panelists for a really global perspective on the state of financial literacy education and the future. Next, I'd like to hand over to Florane Messi, who is the Head of Consumer Finance, Insurance, Private Pensions, Financial and Enterprise Affairs Directorate at the OECD, and she is Executive Secretary of the International Network of Financial Education. Florane will be giving our closing remarks today.
Thank you very much, Amy, and good morning, good evening, good night, perhaps to some of you. I'm very happy to announce that the 10th edition of the Global Money Week has officially started. As one of our panelists said, Global Money Week is indeed now definitely a Generation Z. The reach of the campaign is this year again impressive. This week in over 110 countries, there will be events, workshops, trainings, fairs, competition, games, and more about financial education and money matters for young people. Like every year over the past 10 years, countries participating have showed resilience despite the difficult global circumstances, but also sometimes national challenges, as a testimony that financial literacy for young people is needed in all countries, in all contexts. It has been comforting and inspiring to hear about the role of financial literacy accompanied by effective financial consumer protection. This was also mentioned by a number of panelists in supporting financial inclusion and financial well-being at G20 and EU level. And this was a part of the agenda that was mentioned in Magda, who is co-chair of GPFI, and of course, Commissioner McGuinness. We also learned from the experience and stories from our speakers today from 4 different continents, from Georgia, Peru, Zambia, and Thailand. And I'm sure many others participating today in the global launch and during this 10th edition of the Global Money Week can share many other just as inspiring stories of the impact that the Global Money Week has had on financial literacy and financial education in their countries and for young people. Global Money Week unique strength is that of bringing together a wide range of stakeholders in the pursuit of the same goal, making money and resources that should head part of the conversation. And this was certainly mentioned by Commissioner McGuinness. So quite often, money is a taboo in some countries. So making money and resources at large part of the conversation is essential. It's an accelerator of financial education. And of course, now it's being done by the Global Money Week in very different forms and channels. Although 10 years have passed since the beginning of the campaign, this conversation is still very much needed, given the world we live in, given the ongoing changes taking place in our financial systems and the challenges we, as policymakers and the policymakers of tomorrow, the young people of today and tomorrow, will have to deal with. These challenges do not concern only one country or one region. They are global, they are systemic, and they need global cooperation and mobilization. This is also at the core of the Global Money Week campaign and at the core of the OECD INFE work and DNA. In that spirit, let me thank all involved in the launch today and the Global Money Week in general. There are so many, I cannot be entirely exhaustive, so apologies in advance, but I will try my best. And while I'm doing that, I know that there will be a poll on to evaluate today's launch, so please respond to that poll. But let me thank the key stakeholders in this launch today, starting with our director, Carmine Dinoa, for his inspiring opening remarks and his encouragement globally and also formally in Italy. The G20 through the GPFI and its co-chair, Magda Bianco, and the Indonesian presidency with Yunita Resmisari for the continued support of the G20 to the Global Money Week campaign, but especially for their support in keeping financial literacy and financial inclusion of young people high on the priority agenda of the G20. Our esteemed guests of today, EU Commissioner McGuinness, the governors of central banks of Georgia and Zambia, the superintendent of Peru, and the assistant governor of Bank of Thailand. I really appreciate actually your inspiring stories. I have to say that I've taken notes on your experience. And as all of you have actually said, the Global Money Week is really key to learn from each other. I'd like to thank, of course, Jiro Moria. Without her, as was said, we wouldn't be here today. So she's really the founder of the Global Money Week campaign. It was really great to see you today, Jiro. And I'd like to pay tribute to the driving force behind the campaign from the beginning, to pay tribute to your passion for financial education, for financial inclusion for young people, which has really helped make the campaign reach all corners of the world. Thank you very much, Jiro. Thank you very much also, Aimé Alam, for the excellent moderation today, and the Financial Times in general for its support to financial literacy. A big thank you go to all of you that are making the Global Money Week possible this year. Again, 110 countries are joining the Global Money Week campaign. So thank you for your work, your enthusiasm to make financial education accessible to young people of all ages, to their teachers and their parents all over the world. The Global Money Week Working Group Chair, I would like to thank especially José Vasco Cavalcanti from CVM in Brazil and the members of the working group for the stewardship in supporting the Global Money Week over the past 2 years. Thank you to all the young people that are participating in the campaign starting today. We hope this Global Money Week will be interesting, insightful, and full of learning opportunities, and just the beginning of a longer-term interest in financial education, money matters, and I would say how to manage resources, not only for you, your family, but also for the planet. Finally, but very importantly for me, I would like to thank the OECD team behind this organization, behind the work on the Global Money Week, typically Bianca, Chiara, Valeria, and Jenna. Thank you very much for your hard work for making the Global Money Week possible. And thanks again to the consultants that help us with communication, Lina and Ari. So thank you also very much. Dear friends, dear colleagues, it has been 2 years since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has changed our lives and made us all think hard and think again to what we thought we knew, to what we thought was important. Many of us have changed the way we work, the way we interact with others, and the way we prioritize what matters the most to us. New challenges are emerging, which make us think about our personal and societal priorities and values. How we deliver financial education has changed too. Today, digital delivery is the norm and certainly part of the global agenda on financial education. It is a tool we cannot ignore and that helps us reach those unreachable before. But it was also mentioned during the panel, digital also represents a risk when it comes, for example, to cyber security. So it's a two-facet kind of sword. For young people, the pandemic has meant particularly challenging time. Many have dealt with loneliness, isolation, but also insecurity for their future and financial instability. The pandemic has also prompted young workers to rethink their careers, work conditions, and long-term goals, leading to the so-called Great Resignation phenomenon in some of our countries, where young people seek jobs which respond and align better with changes they want to see in our societies. Without a doubt, our societies are changing, and we need to make sure that they are changing in ways that take into account the needs and aspirations of young people, and that young people have the necessary support and the necessary skills, including financial skills, to deal with these challenges too. Financial literacy is an essential skill that we need to collectively ensure young generation are equipped with. This year's campaign is all about this, as recalled by the theme, #GMW Build Your Future, #GMW Be Smart About Money. It is about making sure that young people have the skills to make smart financial decisions for their financial future and well-being. I am confident that in the coming 10 years, the campaign will continue to be an important tool to galvanize support, learn from each other, and advance the financial literacy of young people around the world. Enhancing reach will be a major goal, impacting policies will be a major goal, and more importantly, making lives better for future generations will be an essential goal. Happy Global Money Week to you all. Thank you. Thank you very much.